one thing that's been very powerful for me that I wish I could give every mother, business owner or not, but I think massively helps you in your business is to make peace and find your confidence in your motherhood journey. And I mean everything from conceiving to birthing to that postpartum newborn phase to navigating all the phases to come.
Welcome to the Seeing in the Dark podcast, the podcast for the women of the ancient futures. Women that see beyond eyes and know beyond mind and are here to make a change from a deep communion with the mystery of life. Seeing in the Dark is about walking paths that have not been walked before and daring to show up for the mission and dream life that is knocking on your door. My name is Nicole Nima Costeres, mystic, medium, initiated priestess, and here to take you into the mysteries of purpose, power, ritual, and intuition. May you embody your own unique essence so deeply that your vibration naturally teaches, inspires, and assists others. Let's dive in. Hello everyone, welcome to this brand new episode that is actually together with my mentor Taylor Lee. Taylor Lee is a business mentor and a mother of 3 under 5, I believe, right Taylor?
Under 4.
Under 4.
Yes.
A mother of 3 under 4, an incredible business mentor. She has a 7-figure business. And like I said, she has been my mentor over the last year. And I'm super excited to have you on as a guest today and for the audience to have a chance to get to know you as well. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm so excited to be here and I could not be more excited for this conversation.
Yeah, because I remember before I started working with you, I think I found you through the group of Melanie and Layer.
Yeah,
I think I saw a
probably.
post of you in there. And I think one of the things that pulled me in immediately was just you felt really down to earth to me. And that is
Yeah.
something I really like. I mean, I love working with business mentors, but many of them also, they were so like flashy and like over the top, and
Yeah.
especially the American ones, no offense.
Yeah.
And so when I saw you, I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. You just seem like a normal mother
Yeah.
of then 2. I think, yeah, when I
Yeah.
met you, you're a mother of 2 and just down to earth, you know, and still like in love with business, in love with making good money, in love with creating a free lifestyle for yourself, but just in a really down to earth way. And that was something I really love about who you are
Oh,
and what you stand for.
thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and the 2 other things that I really loved is the combination of being a mother and having a 7-figure business, but also simplicity. Like there is something that you bring around simplicity that I really love. And I feel curious, has that always been a part of how you work and what you stand for?
Yes. I mean, I always say it's such a gift that I'm not a perfectionist, and a lot of my clients that do come to me do have these perfectionist tendencies. I just am not. That's just how I was made. That's just who I'm not a perfectionist, and it's such a gift because I can always see the parts of the strategies or the ways that people are doing things that just aren't actually required. And I'm like, well,
Yes.
we could just take these couple things out and just do these and probably still get the same result. And I would consider that not really something I've had to master or, step into, but really just one of my natural gifts and tendencies, which I'm so grateful for, especially as a busy mom. And I do, as you know, a lot of that with my clients where, like I said, I can point out kind of like, I don't think we need these parts. Let's just stick to these parts and let's let it be
Yeah.
simple.
And why do you think it's so important or natural for you, this simplicity in life, but also in business?
It's important for me because I don't have a lot of time and I don't have much energy to waste, especially in this season of my life with, as we're recording this, I have a 4-month-old. And so I'm up multiple times a night. I also have a almost 4-year-old that also basically sleeps with us every night for the last few weeks. And, they just I was talking to my mom about it last night. They just take turns. Like, I'm like, Lucy's the one that's independently sleeping for now, but few months ago that wasn't the case. It's funny. But my point is that if you are someone who's in a season like that, whether it is that you're a mother or you want to become one, or maybe you're pregnant, or even if you're not in that phase, but just as women and we have cycles and we navigate so much stuff in our lives, I think it's important. Like, we create our businesses for freedom, but I just watch everybody create these businesses that are so complex. And even sometimes when we think that we're automating and funnels, we're going to make it so simple, and we end up creating really complicated systems, or
Yeah.
people that will have none of that and make it really, you could go extreme both ways. But yeah, I think it's important that you make your business work for you. And so I like to find the simplest way for me. And that works well for a lot of my clients, or we have to find, something slightly different that works good for them. Cause something that could feel really simple to me, I will still have clients come to me and say, that would take me forever. That would be so difficult. So you also have to realize that is that there's, what's simple for one person might be difficult for you, but there is a simple way for you.
Mm, yeah, beautiful. Because I think also some of the listeners will go like, wow, she has a 7-figure business and she's a mom of 3. Isn't that a lot of work? How do you experience that?
I will honestly say in this moment, my answer is like, no, it doesn't actually feel like that much. I feel like I'm in such a good place right now. But I also don't want to just come on here and say, I've created so much ease and, I have everything like going perfect in motherhood, because you never know. Tomorrow, it could be really difficult and there's just different seasons. So I was talking to this with one of my group programs yesterday, where it was like, I do think it's important to be honest and say, actually, yeah, sometimes I do feel like there is weight on my shoulders. And there are a lot of times that I do feel that weight, or there are a lot of days and nights, especially, that are really hard. And I do feel that. But I will tell you that. And also sometimes in business, there's periods that are hard. It's not even doing the simple way. There's things that happen that just aren't fun or perfect. I don't want to come on here and just pretend like it's all easy breezy all the time. But as that stuff happens, I'm so grateful that I've created my business the way that I have, and that I've worked on my mindset the way that I have, because I was thinking about this morning. I also give myself a lot of permission. Like, I was thinking about this morning because literally right here, I have my to-do list from yesterday and it's about half done. But I will tell you, I felt like yesterday was so productive. Like, I nailed it. I got all the important things done. And today, going into the day going, oh yeah, there's still half that list there. It's like, well, I got other important things to do today. Like, I used to feel like even before kids, I could never get everything done. I was always behind. There's just so much mindset shifts available around all of this where it can feel a lot lighter. So I will tell you, if I wasn't so on top of and committed to my mindset around these things and shifting it as things do start to feel heavy, I don't think it actually would be possible to do what I'm doing, because yeah, it technically is a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, practically, I remember in one of our sessions, I asked you how many hours a week do you work, and I remember it wasn't actually a shocking amount of hours. So
No.
practically, I remember I was like, wow, that actually feels really easeful. I don't remember how
Yeah.
many hours it was, but what is your
Yeah.
average amount of hours that you work?
So right now, and for the last year or two, we've had help with our little ones for about 30 hours a week. So
Yeah.
just like morning into the early afternoon, which is so nice. And that's when I don't want to say ever, because I do sometimes, but I hardly ever work on the weekends. I don't work after the kids go to bed. Very, very occasional. I'll go, okay, I have one last thing I need to do. You know what I mean? But hardly ever. And I also use that time that the nanny's here to like get dressed, be presentable, like do run a couple errands. Sometimes it's so nice to be able to run errands without 3 kids in the back seat. Life is so much easier to get some things done. So I do use some of that time for that. So I would say sometimes it might be that full 30 hours. Sometimes it's definitely a little less than that. So
Yeah.
that works
Yeah.
for me.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit, because you said you were talking about the mindset work that you've been doing, like as soon as you notice something starts to feel heavy, to yeah, just to stay in that sense of ease as much as possible. Can you name like a few of those main transformations or shifts that you needed to go through in your mindset?
Number one, it's building self awareness, which is a practice. There's no like magic, like what do I do to be self aware? It's like, it's just a practice, becoming more self aware, Honestly, for me, it was being willing to be self aware because I'm a Taurus and I can be very stubborn. And I always like to think that I'm right, even when things are not working for me. I'm still right. Okay. I still did the right thing. No, but I've had to break a lot of that and just be willing to be self aware and be willing to think a different way, see a different perspective. So in my day to day, that's what it looks like, is just noticing when I get overwhelmed, when I kind of slip into more of like a victimhood kind of thinking of like, all the weight is on my shoulders, or I have to do, especially if you have a partner, which I have a husband, it's very easy to be like, I'm the one doing everything, which actually may be true for some relationships, but isn't true in mine. When I notice those thoughts creeping up, getting aggravated at him, thinking he's not doing enough, I'm doing everything, that's when I really got to stop and go, okay, feel the feeling. I'm feeling this right now. What's actually going on? Am I asking for the help that I need? Am I telling a story that's not even true? Am I taking on a bunch of stuff that I don't even need to be doing, which could be in business, but also in motherhood? I think we live in such a beautiful world. I know I'm going slightly different direction than you asked, but this is what's coming through. But we live in a world where
Yes.
there's so much good information on motherhood and like how to be present, and maybe not new parenting styles, but just it's cool. We live in a world where people share information. We can kind of learn how to be the best of the best parent, but even that can be overwhelming. And so I even look at those and I'm like, okay, what actually matters to me? What do I actually feel called to do in my motherhood journey? And what probably doesn't matter that much. So I don't feel like I'm trying to be perfect mom all the time, because that's also a lot. So, I mean, I will say that's the biggest practice, is practicing being self-aware and being willing to think differently. And I'm sure I could think of a lot of beliefs that have shifted, but it's like every day there's something where I'm like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. What's the truth? Or how can I let this be easier, lighter, simpler, let in more
Yeah.
support, etc.
And I think what you embody really beautifully is that to not be a perfectionist. I
Yeah.
think that's really needed also,
Yeah.
like this combination of seven-figure business and mother of three. I can imagine that perfectionism cannot really have a place in there.
No. Nope.
Yeah, beautiful. So if we would just go back, because I remember also like one of the main reasons of me starting to work with you is because you are a mother and I was in the process of wanting to become pregnant. And then we ended up working together longer. So we actually had a chance of working together during my pregnancy. I think
Yes.
even our pregnancy is overlapped 1 month, maybe in the summer
Really?
at some point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, when you
In the
told me you were pregnant, I
beginning.
was like, "Yes." It's so exciting when you have a client that tells you like something that they so deeply want, and they're just navigating that behind the scenes, because that's not what I help people with. And then it's just so cool to see, people's lives transform and evolve, and there's so much that you
Yeah.
went through personally that was so beautiful to witness. So, I'm just so excited for you.
Yeah, and I think like, there were so many years for me where I was feeling resistant towards becoming a mother because I love my business and my mission so much. And I
Mhm.
always had this fear of, oh, I need to choose. And this was one of the reasons why I felt like I need to find a mentor that embodies this combination, in a
Yeah.
really cool way. So when I found you, I saw that, wow, she is actually doing it. And I felt really curious to how.
Yeah.
And like your first seven-figure year was actually in your first year as a mother. Can you
Yeah.
share a little bit about that? Because that's also pretty insane.
You know, it is. And I would not have thought, like, this is just my experience, was when I became a mom, it felt very difficult, but also like the best thing. I wanted it so badly. So I was so happy. And it felt really difficult navigating motherhood the first couple of months. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I sucked at letting in help. I had no family, no family lived near us. And my husband went back to work really quickly. And I had a lot of pressure on me, like, get back into business, like, this big comeback. Like, I was just pushing that way too soon. I was thinking, okay, she's 2 weeks old. She can just sleep here. And then I can have all my papers here and be trying to plan. And I just had so much pressure on myself. But eventually, I remember I was having my best friend was like, "You're rushing into it." And stubborn Taurus, I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm fine. I can do this." But she was right. She usually is the one that's right. And I like let myself off the hook, as I call it. I just like released that pressure. I was like, this is not working. And then a couple more months went by. So she's like 4, 5 months at this point. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I'm going to go for this next level with my baby. Like I'm feeling more grounded in motherhood, more solid. We've got routines. I'm finally feeling healed and rested. I was also healing from a C-section. I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be walking up and down stairs still from surgery, and I'm trying to plan business thing. You know what I mean? Like, come on, Taylor, past Taylor. But anyway, I just decided. And, it was one of the most powerful years for me because so much of what I had learned about manifesting and all these things, like just decide is like a very common, it's like, what, how do you do that? But you literally can just decide, like, this is where I'm going. This is who I'm going to be. And it just was like the most powerful moment of my business that I can think of where I really did that, where I was like, I'm done feeling like I'm stuck. I'm done feeling like a victim. I'm done feeling like this is so confusing. And I'm just going to decide, like, I'm going to this next level. Of course, I had my numbers in mind, which was actually 50K months and then quickly became 100K months and going to 1 million. And I just went for it. But in going for it, it was like, I know that this is going to look differently, right? So I would like take Ruby on a walk in her stroller and I'd box her clients. And then I had a little bit of help. Finally, I let myself get help. And then I would do like a couple hours of work and then I would be done for the day. It's like I just had to hold the vision of the money I wanted to make and the business I wanted to grow and what I wanted it to look like and kind of make it fit in the time that I had / the time that I wanted. Because I could have had a nanny for 8, 9, 10 hours a day if I wanted. You could always, but that's not what I wanted, right? I
Hmm.
also could have stayed because I felt so much guilt getting help at all. And like I said, I didn't have my mom like down the street or I didn't have anyone to help. So it's like I had to like release all this mom guilt and go, it's okay for me to have someone come into my home and take her for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time or any amount of time I want. And yeah, I will say that year I had $1 million year. My first year being a mom, she was 13 months old when I crossed 1 million in a year. And probably the biggest thing was learning how to decide where I was going and just hold the vision, even when it didn't make sense, and letting in help and being supported.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this also, what you're sharing about the decision on where you're going, even if it doesn't seem to go that way. Because actually, in the first 7 months of this year, like my business went through such a big change and I thought, what is happening here? It just
Yeah.
felt like complete chaos. But actually looking back now, it was exactly what needed to happen for me now to actually have a foundation where next year I can have my biggest year ever. And the
Yeah.
planning is so relaxed. I feel that like we took a look at the planning and it's simple. There's
I
no big
know.
launches until September. I have 3 months of maternity leave. I have the summer months off, and I don't have any pressure to work full days until September, basically. And still, it can be my biggest year ever. And I'm super grateful for that because I think that, calling in support for me, one of the things was calling in a mentor that has been walking that path before me. Because I also think that so many of us in business, we're trying to figure it all out by ourselves. Yeah, we're kind of like struggling unnecessary. And I feel super grateful because I feel everything is ready and prepared. And I feel I can go into motherhood from ease and with trust and with the spaciousness to be a mother. Because, like you said, I don't want to have our child like spend so much time with a nanny or even with
Right.
family. I
Right.
also want to spend my time as a mother. Yeah.
Aw. It's so interesting how in hindsight you can see like those slower periods or harder periods or more confusing periods, like I don't think they always have to happen, but they often do precede the best year ever, the quantum leap, the big takeoff, whatever you want to call it. And it's really a gift to start to learn that so that when you're in it, you can just, okay, this is for me. It's all going to be good. I'm going to get to the other side of this. And it's just a part of growth, is what I've really learned. And I've gotten a lot better at navigating those periods. And sometimes I swear, I think that's why the universe sends me clients that have to navigate those periods. Because every time I have a client going through it, I'm like, universe, because I don't mind. Like, I don't mind. I'm like, I know what's going on here, and we've had that conversation a lot. I'm like, this is going to be good. this is going to be good. It just is a little dark right now. And it's actually really fulfilling with my clients to see that whole cycle complete, which it's just how our package worked out. And I took a maternity leave, which is why we went a little longer, et cetera. It's just,
Yes.
I think about that. I'm like, oh, that was so perfect. Like that was so meant to be. I'm so grateful I got to see that full cycle just kind of complete itself. And yeah, I mean, there's more to come for you next year. So I'm just excited.
Yeah. Because I think one of the things that you teach about a lot is also becoming unwavering,
Yeah.
right? So it's
Mhm.
about when those stormy weathers happen in your business or inside yourself, can you stay unwavering? Can you stay in that trust? Can you share a little bit more about that? Because I think many of the listeners, like regardless of where they are, their business journey, some they're maybe thinking about starting a business, others have a successful business, but all of us go through those stormy weathers inside ourselves in our
Yeah.
business where we think, oh my God, I don't know if this is ever going to work out or if my business is crumbling to the ground now.
Oh my
What
gosh,
would
I
you
know.
say to them?
Yeah, well, the concept of unwavering has been so huge for me. And it came through when I was in one of those lower and just harder years, which was funny enough, the year that I wanted to get pregnant and become a mom. And I did end up getting pregnant, but I had so much fear in me from having a previous loss and also so much fear in me of like that weight on your shoulders that is real and also self induced of just like, oh, now there's so much pressure too. I'm going to be a mom and I have to provide. And also, what if I want a maternity leave and all these things? But that was a hard year for me. And it was especially difficult to navigate because I had put myself in really great mentorship. I had like one of the mentors out there that just has the biggest client results I had ever seen at the time. And maybe even still, like her clients, that's why one reason I hired her, which maybe is the right or wrong reason, depending on how you look at it, was like, I'm hiring her because all of her clients take off. That's what it looks like, right? And I'm in her mastermind. I actually did one on one, but I got gifted her mastermind, which this is one reason I love masterminds, but they're also very interesting to navigate with clients. For the first time, I was that client. I was the client that just stayed so stuck and was not growing and was not having these big wins. And it seemed like every single other woman in there was like, I mean, I was in this mastermind for a year and some of the women went from 10K months to 100K months. I was like, it was just mind boggling. And I actually had my first dip in yearly revenue ever in my business. It was year 4. From there, it was just like kind of up and up. And then that year was down. And it was so instantaneous. I remember I was like, okay, universe, as I often do of these I'm like, why are all these other women taking off and I'm not? And this was probably more so my intuition, but I just heard they're more unwavering than you. And honestly, that was the correct answer. It was spot on.
Wow.
It could not have been more spot on. And for whatever reason in that moment, I wasn't triggered by it. I was just like, oh, okay, I can do that. I can be more unwavering because I was very wavering all the time, 24/7 about everything. We go through those periods, right? Where you're like, why can I not just like get my act together? That was me that year. So being unwavering is to me, it's kind of what we talked about in the beginning of the episode. When I talk about it, sometimes people will say, I'm trying so hard to be unwavering, but I just keep wavering. Being unwavering does not mean never wavering. I still waver probably close to every single day. There's little things that I'm wavering on. But the things I waver on have gotten smaller, and the length, this is the most important piece, the amount of time I spend wavering has gotten way shorter. I think being unwavering is just being willing to notice, self-awareness. Oh, I'm just wavering on this thing. Take your power back and go, no, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to do it. This is what I'm working toward. And so we could talk about that topic all day. And I'd be thrilled to. But that's what it is to me because I just notice with clients, one thing I'll say is that there's a big difference between the client that comes to me and says, this year has been horrible. I've had a huge dip in my revenue. I don't know what's going on. Like, and have all these like thoughts like that something's wrong with them, that they're not doing the right thing. It's all like problem, 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 problem. And they're like, how do I make more money? But then there's clients that will come to me and they could actually be in the same financial situation and go, okay, I'm done with how things have been going. I'm so ready. I know it's possible. I'm so ready to get here. How do we make it happen? Like they're just going to keep working toward their vision. versus
Yeah.
staying so focused on what's not working right now. You got to be willing to just like, from a mindset point of view, like just think differently, focus on something else. And trust me, I know it's hard because I've been there. And still sometimes I have things where I'm like, did I really just spend like 6 months wavering about that thing and didn't even notice? It still happens.
And when you speak about wavering, you mean is like you're doubting,
Yes.
overthinking, taking on heavy perspectives in your business, like feeling insecure and then over focusing on the insecurity, things like that, right?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. And when you're unwavering, it's about fully being in that trust. And even if you see a wobble, to not let it shake you out of alignment completely, but just to be playful and take it a bit lighter.
Yeah. And no, like I know how it feels to me in this season of my business specifically is like, I know my vision, I know where I'm going, and I'm so committed to it that I don't even really have a timeline on it. It's like if it happens next year, great, but I'm just going to go for it. And I know it's like because I'm unwavering and I have such perspective from just being in business for so long, I know there's going to be moments where I'm not on track. I know there's going to be launches that don't go how I want them to go. And when that happens, not even if, when that happens, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to learn from them as I
Yeah.
can and I'm going to keep going. And that's how I'm going to get there. And it might be December 31st of next year that I cross this goal. It might be like my first million was actually March of 2021. So it was in 12 months, March to March. I didn't
Hmm.
cross it by December, but I just kept going. And I always joke, but I mean it. It's like, do you think that I was disappointed in March when it was like, I crossed a million in 12 months? No, I didn't care at all that it didn't happen in December. I was
Yeah.
thrilled. So I think it's not necessarily to say that to be unwavering, you have to remove the timeline, but I will say that that has helped me.
I love it. Yeah. So, one of the things you say is you love helping to help women have their biggest years ever.
Hmm.
And actually, like working together, like even this year where I felt 10 months completely off track. And then suddenly the last 2 months of the year, boom, I just like caught up on everything in 2 months. I think that's such a powerful example of never like letting your insecurities take a hold of you because like you don't know what happens in those last few months of the year, you know? Even if your whole year has gone like crap according to your own perspective, then
Right.
still so much can change. And now there is that foundation where I can grow to 300,000, 400,000, and beyond. But what is it about, like, why does that excite you to help women have their biggest years ever?
It's not necessarily about having their biggest year ever, but it is. What really excites me with my clients is knowing that those numbers that they're going after are actually to create this life that they want. And because
Yes.
that's what had to happen for me was this was the case for my first six-figure year and it was definitely the case for my first seven-figure year. Like I had a vision. For some reason, mine always has to do with where I live, like the home I live in. But, when I was going for my first six-figure year, it was like I was living in this unfinished apartment that I hated everything about, basically. Like the landlord, the neighborhood, why we were there, just it was just not the vibe. And I just had this vision, which now doesn't seem all that crazy or big at all. But it was like, we're gonna move out of this place and we're gonna rent somewhere in a cute little neighborhood, and it's just gonna be so much better. And it was nothing extravagant, but it did require to be spending double the amount on rent. And then,
Mhm.
I got a slightly nicer car. And it's not just about things, but it's interesting because those shifts in my lifestyle led to the shifts that I have in my lifestyle now, which technically do cost more money. But for me, it's not even about the things. It's about like what my kids are going to see and what's going to be normal for them. It's also about like convenience. I don't spend my time frustrated about things. I mean, since we've moved, we bought this house that was like the dream house, and it's immediately the water system didn't work, the AC broke, like but it's not, it's a little comical, but it's not actually financially stressful. It's like instead of being, which is what I grew up in, constant financial stress about everything, to my kids won't see that. It's like, okay, well, we'll handle it. You know what I mean? So I always think about that of like, what do I want my kids to see? Because on one hand, we have like millions and wealth and no financial stress. And then we also have like business, like build a business and work hard and create money, create wealth, create something. And then we also have like the homestead. side of it, which is like simple, slow living and the goats and the baby animals and
Yes.
baking bread. And so I think a lot about that. But that's the point, is really thinking about what you want your life to be and realizing that you can create something that is completely unique to you, which is kind of like, I mean, maybe there's someone else out there that has similar lifestyle to me, of course, but I feel like I'm creating something I haven't seen before. There's not really an example. And it's a privilege and it's totally a freedom to be able to ponder that. Like, I have complete freedom to go, what do I want my kids to witness around money? What do I want, like the conversations, but also the literal financial situation we have is like now completely in my control. So it's really beautiful. I like to see my clients, dream about that too. And I like to get to watch that shift. And honestly, it usually doesn't cost as much money as you think, I've actually found, to have a lot more freedom than you currently have. But also, yeah, I mean, that's what the money does. It gives you those abilities. More
Yeah.
beautiful place to live, but also complete freedom to imagine the exact lifestyle you want, including values, how you spend your time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I love that you bring this in. So you're actually, what I hear you say, yes, it's beautiful to have your biggest year ever, but it's even more important that it gives you the possibilities to live a lifestyle that is your, like, one of your dreams. Yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
exactly.
So you were actually mentioning something about your first six-figure year and then something about your first seven-figure year. And I just feel really curious, what was the biggest difference in your inner and business growth towards your first six-figure year and towards your first seven-figure year?
Okay. What's funny is that those 2 years are the years where I say I nailed it. There actually wasn't very much difference. I mean, strategically, I could tell you some differences, but inner, just a different number on the brain.
Mhm.
When I had my first six-figure year, I was not having $1 million year, like never. It wasn't even that I didn't think it was possible. Like, it just didn't cross my mind. It didn't even exist. Like, it wasn't a possible. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even think about it ever. Having a six-figure year felt like, which arguably I didn't even really think about that kind of happened on accident. But I was just focused on growing my client. Like, I wanted to be a fully booked coach is what I focused on. I wanted to have a full client. I wasn't even thinking about six figures actually. When I crossed, I was like, what? But it was the same energy where I had a vision, I held that vision, I knew who I was becoming, who I was going to be when that vision was a reality, and I showed up as her every single day, even when it made sense. And trust me, both of those years, there was a lot of moments where it didn't make sense, but it came together through a lot of days of showing up as that version of myself. And strategically, also, a lot didn't actually change. But I will say the biggest thing that probably changed for seven figures was, like I said, I intentionally went for seven figures. That actually felt like a potential possibility for me. It was in my realm of existence. Different business model, different pricing, and a lot of momentum behind me, right? I had
Mm,
at least 5 years of momentum behind me. So my audience was automatically bigger, right? My
yeah.
visibility was automatically higher. And maybe some shifts, some slight shifts in messaging too, but I have always kept it simple. So really most of my clients have come from the same things: posting and stories and emails and doing content events. It looked actually kind of similar. But it's interesting that especially the inner work, like when I look at it, I'm like, those were almost identically the exact same years internally,
Mm,
just different numbers, different
interesting.
visions.
Yeah, so more like natural growth actually happening.
Yeah. Natural
Yeah.
growth. And I want to say that because, like you said, I know there's people that are listening at different levels, and unwavering as well. It's like, keep going. Just even if you don't know
Yes.
where you're going, keep going and building that momentum, because I think you will look back and realize the same thing. I look back and I think of year one Taylor, and I'm like, so proud of her, so thankful for her, and just like high five, like you nailed it. Like, she is why I'm where I am today. And she built
Yeah,
so much momentum. And I've had some years where I've had dips and I've showed up differently, or I've had to navigate a lot of heavy stuff. I'm proud of that version of me too. But those 2 years, I nailed it. Very similar
beautiful.
process.
Interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
Because I also sometimes feel like, okay, what should I be doing differently? But actually, we had that also in a few of our sessions. I don't need to do that much different. I actually know what I'm doing. And just
Yeah.
continuing doing that will naturally bring more growth.
You'll
Yeah.
notice different things, but it's the same. When I was going for my 6-figure year and charging $3,000, my first coaching package ever, versus doing hourly freelance work, I had to do some mindset work around why someone would hire me for that price and commit to 4 months and why me.
Yeah.
And 7 figures, I had to do similar things where it was like, then I was doing $20,000 packages and year-long mastermind. And so I did similar work around that, just different numbers, different
Yeah.
vision is really what
Yeah.
changed. But I mean, that actually, I think that's the surprising part of my work with my clients is a big part of it is reminding them, no, actually you are doing everything right. Like, let's keep going and not
Yeah.
actually like changing a whole bunch.
Yeah. Nice. So I just want to spiral it back to the
Yeah.
simplicity. So if the listener is like, wow, I actually really want to also simplify more in my business while I keep growing, like what is a like tip or 1 or 2 tips that you would give them to simplify their business?
Something I would think about is maybe 2 things. If someone were to, everyone probably has different businesses, but if you were to make a sale today, if a client were to come in today, how would that probably happen? I always want to know strategically what that would be. So for me, it's like, and I know that this, if you haven't had this happen yet, or if it's been a long time, you could totally get in your own head about this, but genuinely, you could share on stories your offer in a couple slides, really simply, and someone could DM you to buy. You could write a post. You don't even have to pitch in the post. But you could write a post that really speaks to someone's soul because it actually means something to you. And they could DM you and go, I've got to work with you. Like, tell me your packages. How does like that will happen? Same thing. Some people will be like, I have an email list. I don't email them. Why? We've had some good email marketing conversations. It's like,
Yes.
you could send an email today and make a sale. Those are easy, quick things. Now, I know if you're not in the practice of them, you'd be like, writing an email takes me an hour. So that's a whole nother conversation. It should take you like 10 minutes, maybe 20 if you're getting fancy with it. But also that just comes from practice and it comes from self-trust. Usually it doesn't take people, when it takes people a long time to create content, it's not normally that they suck at it. It's that they're wavering. They're questioning every word they're writing. They're doubting
Yeah.
if it's going to work. They hear all these mentors in their head and all those Instagram posts they've read about if you say this, like just write what's on your heart. Just start practicing writing what's on your heart, then bring a
Yeah.
little strategy into it. The other thing I would look at, kind of like next level, is maybe a strategy for like a launch. So for me, I do content events. Nicole does these too, whatever you like to call them. But that just means have people sign up for something free. It can be 1 day, 3 days, 5 days. I don't care. Gather a group and then offer them something special. I like to do that at least a couple of times a year. Back in the day, though, I would do it every month when I was really new because I just was practicing and building momentum. I think it's nice to have like a strategy where you can go out and it's kind of repeatable. There's a conversion rate there. If I get this many people in the free thing, 3% will buy, 5% will, like, it's more predictable and you can kind of plug and play it on a schedule that works for you. Oh,
Yeah.
that's a system. What's a system? I don't have any system. That's a system. It's a really great one to have. But also just daily sales are possible too. And that could come from a couple actions that take you 30 minutes, maybe an hour a day to bring in sales. I think those would be 2 really important things to look at to make money
Yeah.
simply.
And I love this plug and play you call them, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it because actually I didn't have these plug and play launches and I have them now. And I know it
Yeah.
will make my life so much easier next year
Oh
as a
my
mother
gosh.
because I will just be able to say, okay, team, we're going to launch this and all the emails are ready. All like the layout for the masterclass is ready. Everything is ready. I just have to
Yeah.
say, let's go. And we go.
Yeah. And that's such a good reminder for people who are earlier on, or I've rebuilt quite a few things this year. So I'm in the trenches too. It feels like when you're launching something for the first time, it is just factually more work. You're designing
Yes.
an offer. Maybe you're creating a wholesales page, writing every email, every post, coming up with a new content event if you choose to do one, like every landing page. Like if you write all those tasks down, it is a lot. But this is why it's so important to launch offers that are really aligned to you and that are your truth, not what this coach is doing or what you think will sell, because those are the ones that you will repeat. And then when
Yeah.
you repeat, like now Nicole has, I mean, I don't know exactly how you have it organized, but like what we do is like a Google Doc, all the emails are there. Now your
Yeah.
sales page exists. You can launch it in a few more months. And again, on keeping things simple, I do know there's people who fear, can I really launch the same thing to my audience again? Yes,
Yes.
you can. You should.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that's super helpful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love everything we've been talking about so far.
Me
And I
too.
also just like, as we're coming towards the end of this conversation, we've been talking a lot about motherhood and business as a combination, simplifying. So I also feel curious, is there anything you want to say about mothers or mothers to be as they're in this business journey and as they're listening to this conversation, including myself, because I will be a mother in 3 months now, as we're recording this. So when it comes out, even sooner. But yeah, I think you have this experience of being a mom of 3 kids under 4, having this 7-figure business, like having
Mhm.
the beautiful simplicity that you have. Like, yeah, what would you say to them?
What comes to mind, which is very different than my normal advice, it's just not something I normally say, is I think one thing that's been very powerful for me that I wish I could give every mother, business owner or not, but I think massively helps you in your business is to make peace and find your confidence in your motherhood journey. And I mean everything from conceiving to birthing to that postpartum newborn phase to navigating all the phases to come. I mean, I sound like a motherhood pro over here with these 3 kids, but I'm only barely 4 years in myself. And I know that my kids are going to go through, there's so many phases with my little ones I haven't navigated yet. And I don't know how to navigate. And I'm going to figure it out as I go. I will tell you, my first 6-figure year was really easy. I had this naive confidence. I had never, of course, everyone has their fair share of childhood trauma and things like this, but I never had anything that bad actually happen to me that made me feel not worthy, not capable. But having a miscarriage took me out for a minute because it felt like something that you want so badly can go away. Having a emergency C-section when I so badly wanted that natural birth and like focused on it so much took a lot of my confidence away. In certain periods of having my babies, I have lost my confidence. I can like I'm like tearing up. So that's what I
Hmm.
wish for all moms is find peace with whatever that journey throws at you and find your confidence in it because even when things go not how you wanted them to, you survived it and you did it. And that has helped me so much in business because now I really trust myself in motherhood. I'm so proud of all of my births and everything I've navigated with pregnancy and all these things, even the parts that were hard, especially the parts that were hard. And now in my business, again, I feel like I can do anything. So that
Yeah.
is just so, I think that's the gift. There are some things where it's like, yeah, us women do have it harder. Like, this is not fair. But there's such a gift as well. And is in being a woman and having babies and navigating motherhood, and then also getting to run this kind of business where you're changing lives and where you can literally create ultimate freedom. But you're not going to be able to do that when you don't believe in yourself. And I think, unfortunately, the most badass thing that we ever get to do, I think, becoming mothers, really can shake your confidence.
Mm.
So don't let it. And if it has, it's worth going back and doing the inner work around it and shifting your perspective. You deserve healing around that and it will serve you.
Yeah. And I think your last birth was like the cherry on the cake, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I listened to your story and I was like, wow, you go, Taylor. Like, you were
I
like
had
holding your ground. Like with 41 weeks and 6 days, I think your son
yeah.
came. You had 1 day left before they would like make your birth medical,
Yeah.
if I remember well. And
Yeah.
like you were holding your ground until the end. And I can imagine that that was also such an incredible boost to your confidence and that you can trust your body and trust
Yeah.
yourself in, yeah, how you feel it will go.
And a really amazing 4-hour home birth that
Yeah.
mentally was so good. I was just part of the whole thing, like it was cool. It was like my first birth with no fear at all. Cause you never
Mm,
gone through it. It's a little nerve wracking. And then the second time was nerve wracking too, because the first experience was so different. And the third one, I was like, yep, this is exactly how it's supposed to feel. This is exactly how it's supposed to go, which you can
yeah.
totally embody in your first birth, but also you never experience it. So of course, I mean, that's how I've made peace with it. It's like I can
Mm.
see these parts where it's like, of course you didn't know that. And I will tell you, as I've made peace with those parts of my birth, I've also made peace with things in my business I've navigated where it's like, oh, where I was like, why did I mess that up? Why did I drop the ball? I self sabotaged. I'm like, well, of course you didn't know how to hold all of that. You never had all of that before. You never
Mm.
navigated that before. You know what I mean? And then you learned how to navigate it. So now when something new comes up, you're going to learn how to navigate that too. And you're going to trust yourself more. And so it's going to be easier to figure that out. That is so important, woman or not, but I just think it's really helped me to do that inner work around motherhood and birth and pregnancy and all those things that come with it. It's such a magical period. And it's sad that actually a lot of women, there's statistics on it, but a large portion of women feel negatively about their birth experience.
Yeah.
And that's really sad because no matter how your birth has gone, even if it wasn't fair or whatever, you're such a badass. You know what I mean? And you did. And you still birthed that baby and you created life. And I don't think there's anything cooler than that. So,
Yeah, I love that. So, if the listeners feel curious about you and your work, we'll of course link everything below this episode as well. But do you want to share a bit about where they can find out more about you?
yes. So I'll leave you guys with two things. The best places to come connect would be Instagram, which I gave you the link for. It's at underscore the Taylor Lee. And then also my podcast, since you're already listening to one, you can just search for me on the podcast app. It's called Fully Free with Taylor Lee.
Yeah, and I love your podcast. I've been binge
Thank
listening a
you.
lot to it. Yeah, I want to thank you so much, not only for today's conversation, but also for the whole year of mentorship together. I feel I go into motherhood and into the next level of my business like prepared, relaxed, and with confidence. Yeah, and also just thank you for being a beautiful example of this combination of motherhood and business, because I really loved following you on that journey. And also, yeah, your birth story of your most recent birth was like, yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Oh
yeah,
my
thank you so
gosh.
much for everything.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me
Yeah.
today and hosting this conversation. And I'm excited for the world to find out about your little one on the way.
Yes.
And I'm so excited for them to hear this conversation as well.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening today, and I will see you again next week. Much love. Did you receive any inspiration, motivation, or powerful breakthroughs by listening to this episode? Then please share this episode by taking a screenshot and tagging me in your stories at nicole.nima.costeres. I would love to celebrate you, share you in my stories, and it would mean so much to have my work reach more powerful, passionate women like you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week.